And welcome back to Ask Dr. Sex Man. This is our second episode together. I'm delighted to have you along with me here. Today, we tackle a question that was asked pretty recently by a college student I was speaking to, but frankly, is the most asked question that I get. And that question is, can blank go to heaven? And the blank can be filled in any number of ways. But most often when I get around people who are talking about faith and sexuality, the undercurrent of all of it is who gets to go to heaven? Can someone who cheats on their spouse go to heaven? Can somebody who loses their virginity go to heaven? Can somebody who loses their virginity and likes it go to heaven? Can someone who experiences same-sex attraction go to heaven? Or somebody who is fully gay, living a gay lifestyle, can that person go to heaven? Can a transgender person go to heaven? A gender dysphoric person go to heaven? Who gets to go to heaven? That's the question that is at the heart or at the foundation of most of the conversations that I have with people when we start to talk about faith and sexuality. And so today we tackle that one. The first thing to be said about the question of who's going to heaven is that I don't make that decision. Neither do you, neither do your parents or your preacher or any other voice that may be ringing in your ears. None of us are going to make the decision about who gets to go to heaven. Only Jesus is going to make that decision. That's his job that God has given him. He'll be the one who sits on the throne and makes those kinds of judgments when everything is said and done. And contrary to the vibe that many Christian environments or Christian people give off, he is not going to lead with the question of who did you have sex with or who did you want to have sex with. There is a very different thing that's going to be happening when Jesus starts asking us about our lives and when Jesus makes judgments about who goes to heaven. One of Jesus' most famous statements happens when a teacher of the Old Testament law comes to him and asks him, what's the most important command in all of the Bible? Jesus says, the most important one is to love God with all of your heart, your soul, your mind, and your strength. He said, and the second one is to love your neighbor the same way that you love yourself, to think as highly of other people, to take care of other people just like you would yourself and make their needs as important as your own. And then he says that everything in the Bible is wrapped up in those two commands. So, if we're going to think about what it is that Jesus wants of us when he comes back and he starts deciding who is going to go to heaven, that's where we need to start, and at least where we need to put the vast majority of our time. What he really wants to know is not who you're attracted to, not even who you slept with, although those things matter. He wants to know, did you love God with all of your heart, your soul, your mind, and your strength, and did you love other people every bit as much as you love yourselves? Because our love for other people is the exact way that we express our love for God. And here's the thing, you can't fake that. Your good behavior won't make up for a lack of loving God with all your heart and loving others like you should. And your bad behavior won't invalidate how much you love God and how much you love others. So there are great reasons to pursue a biblical sexual ethic. But getting into heaven isn't necessarily one of them. It's just not about that, because getting into heaven isn't ultimately about your sexual behavior. Your sexual behavior is part of it, but it's only a small part of it. There's a whole lot more to it. What it's really about is about your ability to love Jesus Christ, to love God, and to love other people. And our sexual behavior has something to say about our heart and about our posture toward God. And it also certainly has something to offer us in terms of living into the fullest, best version of humanity that we can live into. So here's what I think. I firmly believe that anyone who can say that they love God with all of their heart, their soul, their mind, and their strength, and that they love others deeply as an expression of their love to God, can expect to go to heaven. Because again, you can't fake it. In fact, it's not even enough to say it. I said anyone who can say that. It has nothing to do with whether you can say it. It has to do with whether it's true. And if it's true, then I believe you can expect to go to heaven, and here's why. The Bible tells us that there is only one force in all creation that can really and truly change someone into the expression of who Jesus really wants them to be and who Jesus really created them to be. That force is the message of Jesus Christ. We call that the gospel, right? Along with, or paired with, the work of the Spirit of God in our lives. So when we come to love Jesus and accept him and decide we're going to follow him with our lives, the Spirit of God starts to do some work inside of us. And that combination of factors, the truth of Jesus Christ and the work of the Holy Spirit, those are the only thing in all creation that's really going to change someone. Now, when we find ourselves so compelled by Jesus that we give our lives over to him, he promises us that the Holy Spirit's going to come work inside of us, and the Holy Spirit's going to do things that Jesus describes as being an advocate, or being somebody who is on your side in kind of like a legal setting, somebody who is fighting for you, being a guide, somebody who helps you understand how to live your life well, and being a teacher, somebody who helps you understand the words and the teachings of Jesus himself and what God has in store for our lives. All of these things happen when the Spirit comes into us as we obey Jesus Christ. And in particular, Jesus says that the Spirit will lead us into an understanding of what he wants us to both know and, more importantly, who he wants us to be. And in the Bible, we call this process sanctification. Sanctification means that we are being changed in this lifelong process where God continues to work inside of us to make us more and more, little by little, into the image of Jesus Christ himself. And so we become this kind of person that really is the type of person, or as close as we can get to the type of person that Jesus was. And in particular, or in addition to that, rather, that we live into the fullest version of our own humanity, a life filled with joy and with freedom and with love. That is what Jesus is trying to do in us as he gives us this gift of the Holy Spirit. By the way, one of the things that I think makes some Christians, some churches, so mean, just mean on issues of sexuality, is frankly a lack of trust. It's a lack of trust that Jesus and the Spirit actually do these things that they claim to do, both in themselves and the people who are grumpy, as well as in other people. And so they feel compelled to be violent and mean and nasty toward people whose behaviors and ideas don't line up with their own. If you've had that experience, then on behalf of Christians, I don't know to what extent I can apologize on behalf of Jesus, but I think I can. We're sorry. It shouldn't be that way. Now, the really important truth of the matter of all of this is that every person, every single person, needs this sanctifying work, this power of the gospel of Jesus Christ and of the Holy Spirit sanctifying us from within. Everybody needs that. Prostitutes need that, and virgins need that. Straight people need that. Gay people need that. People who find themselves somewhere in between, they need that. Preachers need it. Murderers need it. You get the idea. Everybody needs it. You need it, and I need it. So, my friends, here's what I want us to do. I want us to keep supporting each other. I want us to keep loving each other well. I want us to take a long view of our lives together. In other words, let's assume that over the course of our lives, the Spirit and the gospel will actually do these things that they say they're going to do. Let's make certain that our churches, that our study groups, clubs, just friendship circles, let's make certain that these places are always open to anybody who wants to seek God, that we can always have conversations with people about the love of God in our lives and what it means for God to love them deeply, because God does, in fact, love every single one of them deeply. More to come soon here on Ask Dr. Sexman. I'll keep answering some of the questions that I have in my little question bank, but I would really love to hear questions that you have, either on Twitter at Ask Dr. Sexman or in the comment section here on YouTube. So until next time, know this, that you are intentionally made, that you are fiercely loved, and that I, Dr. Sexman, am on your side. But I'm still